Good morning, bom dia. My name is John Rathjen. I lead the water industry team in the Scottish Government. I'm talking to you today from Edinburgh in Scotland, and it's a delight to join you all at FIN2020. It's a real shame that we can't all be together physically, but it's still great that we can communicate and share ideas, and I'm certainly looking forward to doing that today. And I want to set the scene for the day, if I can, with some thoughts around rethinking the future, focusing very much on the circular economy. And I think in particular, really looking at the journey towards net zero emissions and how the water industry around the world can start to really show leadership in that space. Scotland has a single water company that deals with all water and wastewater services. It serves the whole of the country, so over 5 million people. Scotland's not so very much smaller than Portugal, 78,000 kilometres squared to your 92. We have big cities, we also have large rural areas. We have a pretty substantial water reserve. We're very fortunate, we have a lot of surface water. We've actually got 90% of all of Great Britain's surface water in Scotland, held in some of our iconic lochs and rivers. You can put all of England and Wales's water into one of our biggest lochs and only half fill it, just to give you an idea of just how much water we have. And that, I guess, is why water is so central to our economy, and it's why it's so central to our thinking. We have set out a policy called Scotland the Hydro Nation, which is all about maximising the value we get from our water resources in Scotland. And more as we look into the future, maximising the value we get from those water resources is very much about the energy we can produce from them. It's about ensuring that we leave that water in the natural environment as much as we can so it can support agriculture and industry. And it's about looking at the resources that we can take from the wastewater streams as well. And wrapped around all of that is making sure that as we manage that water, we do so in the most energy efficient way that we can, we do it in the most resource efficient way that we can, and that we use natural processes more and more as we go into the future. Scotland's management of water has not always been great. As little as 15 years ago, we had pretty low service levels, and we really were not running and low compliance really with European law. It's been a rapid journey though to a position where now we're actually seen as one of the better managers of water resources around Europe. And that journey is continuing, and it's continuing at pace. And just this year, Scottish Water launched their net zero emissions route map. Now you can find that at netzeroemissions.co.uk or Scottish Water netzeroemissions.co.uk, and it's well worth a look. And really the key ambition within that net zero route map is to go beyond net zero by 2040. And that beyond is really, really important, because this isn't about setting a target to hit. This isn't about compliance. This really is about maximising everything, and going past net zero emissions is just part of a journey to reach that point and go beyond. Because the water industry has a unique ability to be able to generate power, sequester carbon, and really be one of the leading industries in tackling climate change. I will give some examples of the kind of interventions that we have taken already and those that we're planning to achieve that net zero ambition. But first I wanted just to talk a little bit about the conditions that make it possible in Scotland to have such a strong ambition. And in part that's because government sits around the table with Scottish Water. It sits around the table with its regulators on drinking water quality, environmental regulator, its economic regulator, and it sits around with customers. And we sit around the table regularly, physically around a table when we can, or these days via these little screens, and we talk about the future for the water industry, and we share a vision for the water industry. And that's really given Scottish Water the confidence to set out its plans to achieve net zero, because it's saying to its customers, this is where we're going, are you with us? And they get a resounding yes back from their customers. They say to the regulators, to government, are you with us? And they get a resounding yes. So there is real unity, real confidence that the net zero journey is the right one to take for the water utility. It means that we can set charges at an appropriate level to achieve that ambition, and that customers are on board with making that transition. It means we can talk to staff within Scottish Water and tell them that the way they work will change. The way we operate will change. We will have to bring in new innovations. We will have to use natural solutions to our problems to a greater extent. There may even be some cost uplifts for some solutions. It may be more expensive to deliver in a net zero way in some ways, but there are certainly huge opportunities as well. And I want to set a few of those out for you in this short time that we have together. And I should be clear when I'm talking about net zero emissions that I'm not just talking about operational emissions. I'm talking about all the electricity, all the operational emissions, and all the investment emissions as well. So all those embedded capital emissions as well. So this is a really very ambitious target. There is no one way of achieving true circularity and reaching that net zero target and then going beyond it. But I think you have to embrace all the aspects. So of course your fleet will be all electric in the next few years. That goes without saying. Of course you'll be focusing on low carbon materials as we go forward, low carbon design as well. Certainly here in Scotland we build more and more off-site in indoor environments and then take those finished components out to site, reducing waste, speeding up the build time. So those things are really important. We're also looking at our land and saying we really must improve our land, and we've been doing a lot of work to enhance biodiversity, plant trees, improve and protect the peatland to sequester more carbon, because inevitably within an industrial operation like water services there will be carbon generated. So there needs to be some capture of carbon to reach that net zero target. But right at the heart of this lies energy. So a couple of examples. Our biggest wastewater works, newest one in Edinburgh, is now 91% self-sufficient, and it's doing that by spinning turbines on the raw water intakes into that works. We have wastewater treatment works that are 50% self-sufficient, generating the energy they need from the wastewater itself, from the sludge, making them hugely more self-sufficient than ever they've been before. We're taking heat from our sewers and we're taking that out into the community and into industrial settings, using that heat direct in district heating schemes straight from the sewers. We're beginning to look at hydrogen generation. That's certainly something that's going to come in the near future. We already have a huge amount of wind generation. Most of that wind generation, we host those wind turbines rather than own them ourselves, but they're up there in the catchments, generating nearly twice as much electricity as we use to operate the whole of our network. We've exploited water for many, many years in hydropower, and we'll continue to do that. Increasingly, we're also using solar PV across many of our buildings, and also on land around works, just putting panels in there to make a contribution wherever we possibly can. You need to take every single opportunity, and that really is the message that I want to leave with you. If you're looking for circularity, if you're looking to get on the journey to net zero, you need to look at the whole of your operation and understand where any energy can be exploited and put back into the system to displace grid energy. You should take that opportunity. So we've been driving that forwards for a number of years now. We went past the point where we were able to replace the electricity we were taking from the grid once. We've now gone past the ability to do that twice, and we're heading rapidly on to be able to do 300% of our energy needs generated renewably, either direct from our assets or hosted in our land. And we hope to take that further and further to the point where we're exporting quite significant quantities of green electricity back into the grid direct from our assets. We want to do it in a way that leaves our assets more in tune with nature, so we're using far more natural flood defence, natural surface water management techniques as we go forward, making our products and making our processes more energy efficient, lower chemical use. All these things will come together to produce a far more modern industry as we go forward. We've made great strides along that journey already. I do recommend you go and have a look at our net zero route map. It's got lots of ideas, lots of statistics and thoughts about how we're going to achieve the targets we've set ourselves for 2025, 2030 and then 2040, and then to go beyond. I hope that's given you a few thoughts to to consider this morning, and I wish you well with the rest of the conference, and I hope to join you later on this morning in one or two of the sessions. Thank you once again.